So hello and welcome everybody, and welcome to today's Thursday Live. I am Denise Armenio, a certified emotion code, body code practitioner and genius biofeedback practitioner. And today I have the honor and I'm just so blessed to have my co-host Laura Caldwell here with us today. She is a good friend of mine. I've known her and have trained with her for I don't know, a long time, right, Laura?
Oh my gosh, yes, a long time. We don't want to talk about years.
That's right, but we're aging backwards, so it's okay.
That's right.
But she is here to talk about her amazing NeuroCohesion course, which also is accompanied by a library bundle. And Laura, why don't you take it away and explain to everybody what that is and how they can benefit from it.
Gosh, thanks, Denise. First of all, thank you for having me on the demo. And it's so good to see you here doing your thing and working the genius. I mean, you guys maybe don't know that much about Denise, but she's got a ton more training than she just rambled on. Like, she's got a whole career of trainings that she didn't even talk about in there. So one of the smartest humans that I know. So thanks, Denise, for letting me be here.
You're so sweet.
And it's good to see faces that I know. Welcome to all those faces that I know. And so we're going to talk a little bit about this crazy thing that happened for me and is now happening for everyone, which is a class I wrote called NeuroCohesion. So probably most of you that know me know I've talked a little bit about my background, have lots and lots of different trainings, but this class came through really, it kind of came through slow and kind of filtered in, but I knew it was there and I wasn't sure. And there was all these things going on. And so I kind of got a wild hair one day and I emailed Denise and a couple other my friends and I said, I think I'm going to write this class. And do you mind to be in the first cohort while I try and figure it out? And I had some amazing humans who joined me for that and allowed me to kind of figure it out. And then we had cohort 2. So then we taught it again. And then that cohort still was with me while I was like, I'm still trying to figure it out. There's so much that we're still figuring out about how it goes. But through those 2 processes, we were able to hone it in, and we've got a good, through great feedback and just lots of figuring it out. I think we finally have kind of nailed the best way. And so this class itself is based on the 5 elements, and that comes from Chinese tradition. The thing that's a little bit different about this than other trainings in the world is that it's not necessarily a how to fix something, like how to work with sleep or how to work with blood sugar. It's more understanding those deeper patterns that are happening for people that might cause sleep disruptions or might cause those blood sugar issues. And so when we kind of back out and we look at the 5 elements, we can start to see what's going on and how it connects between the physical level, the emotional level, the mental level, the archetype of who we are, and at the spiritual level. So that's kind of the class that was written really to kind of dive deep into the 5 elements on all 5 of those levels. So it comes with lots and lots of libraries that go with those 5 elements. And then obviously the training helps you to understand what you're doing with those libraries. So that's kind of the background. And Denise, do you think people need more than that? Does that feel good?
I think that feels good. I think really, once we start getting into it a little bit more, they can see it more in action. And, I just wanted to say one thing, to help maybe put it a little bit more in perspective. When Laura is saying she doesn't really address like sleeping issues or blood sugar issues, that's because she's really getting to the roots of what is causing the patterning and the emotions and everything involved that's causing it to manifest in those other ways, and the ways in which the sleep issues or the blood sugar issues manifest could be different for everyone. So to put it in a box sort of where you have to do these specific things for sleep issues or for blood sugar issues isn't always going to address the root cause of an issue. It may help correct it, but sometimes those issues may return if you're not getting to the the root to the real cause of it. So I think that's
Right.
really,
And understanding on that bigger level that we all kind of come into the world, this bucket of certain frequencies of ancestral patterns of our own core beliefs, and they lay the foundation of who we are as our own archetype. And then the how we are, those are the what I call the fundamental filters. How we move through the world governs how we think. How we think governs how we emote, move emotion, and then that governs how we feel. And that lines up beautifully with the 5 bodies of consciousness and the 5 elements. So understanding those bigger patterns can sometimes help us. I say in the class that when we help somebody with a particular problem, that's called restorative energy work, meaning I'm going to give you like certain frequencies to help you sleep. But when you're diving deeper into these bigger patterns, that's called alchemical work. It's where you're doing deeper transformation and looking at the deeper pattern. And you want to do both, right? We want to offer those things, those frequencies to help them sleep while also looking at those deeper patterns that might be disrupting the sleep. And so that's what NeuroCohesion was developed to do.
so without further ado, shall we dive in?
Let's do it. Denise has so bravely put herself up here as our guinea pig for the day. So thanks, Denise.
Oh, you're welcome. So I'm just going to get this started here. So I've already put in my credentials here. So I'm going to hit next. Oh, sorry. I was hitting it on my laptop. And I'm going to add my voice. So I'm just going to do that. And just pardon me for not looking at the screen. I'm looking at my iPad to do this. So
that's unacceptable, Denise. I will need you to put one eye on me and one eye on your iPad.
I have to redo the recording now. You got my voice. So hold on. We have 5 more seconds. Okay, so I'm going to record now. Denise Michelle Armenio, A-E-I-O-U, A-E-I-O-U, A-E-I-O-U. Okay, so now that that's done, I am going to just hit voice harmonics and hopefully you could hear it. I do recommend that you do play this for the 15 seconds. What it is the genius is translating what I just recorded into a frequency. So it's sort of a homeopathic frequency for myself. So I'm just going to play that. It's really low pitched. Okay, and now I'm just going to hit next on the bottom right. You can see that. I'll move my cursor to where it is. Let me know, everyone, if my voice drops. Sometimes the Zoom interferes with the audio, so you can't hear it as well. And I'm going to take a new picture. Don't look at that one.
I know I have so many pictures of myself.
Okay, so here I am. I'm just going to take my picture. And we're going to use this photo and we're going to begin analysis.
We're getting younger.
With any luck.
Right? Thank you, genius.
Okay, and I'm just going to follow the prompts here. So an energetic affirmation, I always add something here. Laura, is there an affirmation that you love and like to work with, or do you want me to?
I always put in something like in perfect balance and harmony, just kind of an overall.
Okay, and
NeuroCohesion itself is really about finding that balance in the 5 elements, finding the balance and the harmony and energy flow in all 5 elements. So it kind of gets the whole shebang.
Want me to add something? There's an affirmation that Dr. Deb uses, which you might like to add into, and that one is all frequencies are transmuted into the frequency of pure love.
Oh, I love that.
And then I am filled with pure love, light, and gratitude. And so it is. All right. So now that's done. I'm going to hit begin analysis. So for anyone that is new to the Genius, hopefully I will help guide you a little bit on how to use it. We also are trying to really introduce you to this NeuroCohesion. So if you do have questions, be happy to help answer them. Just put them in the chat. Okay, so now the Genius is showing us where my priority of focus should be. So it's showing it to be the body, then the mind, something in libraries, and then biofield. Also, the Genius works on a numerical value system from 0 to 777. The range from 0 to 100 is represented by the color blue, and that is typically observed to be chronic energetic disturbances. It can also be seen as under energy, or like in Chinese medicine, stagnant energy. We then go to 101 to 450, which is represented by green. And then 451 to 688 is represented by the color yellow. And then we get our high values that are 689 to 777. That's represented by the color red. And those are our acute energetic disturbances. So they're disturbances that are happening now in the present. It can also be observed to be over energy. So sometimes we're getting over energy to those specific items that we're looking at. And in Chinese medicine, it could also be referred to as heat or inflammation. So the Genius will look at these, mostly the red and blue values. When you use a quick balance, the quick balance is just going to run the frequencies on that screen that you're observing that are red and blue. And you just adjust the timer on the right, which is over here on the right, the timer for the quick balance. And we have two other trays. We have the quick zap, which is up top, and that you can simply load whatever items you want into that tray by using the plus bar, and it will allow you to add the red items, yellow items, green items, or blue items, or you can add them individually. And then the main hold tray is like the Rolls Royce of the areas to put all your items. And that is because the items that are put into the main hold tray, the Genius uses algorithms to look at the relationship of all the items that are in the tray, and it prioritizes them on high, medium, and low. So you really get a nice idea of what your main priorities are to look at. The next thing I just want to touch base and look at is if you touch on the system overview, it brings you to your general overview. And this is everything that you see on the first page. And it takes all the items that are in each panel. So I'm just going to run a quick analysis here. So you can see all the high items. So there are a lot of meridians here that are presently have an energetic disturbance. And if I hit general overview again, it will take us to the low view, which would be more chronic disturbances. And again, there's some meridians in here. There are some herbs, digestion issues. So I'm just going to run all of these. And I put it on 0 minutes. I'll run it for about 45 seconds, but I'm just going to run a quick balance here. Laura, how do you start off your balances? Is there anything specific that you do when you start off, or?
I mean, this way, Denise, what you're doing right now is a great way to just kind of introduce Dr. Deborah Drake, who I also think I saw her pop up here. I think she's here. I can't see anybody, but
yeah, she's here.
She has a great primer that she teaches that is,
right.
And I think that that's a really great way to start. Sometimes I will put the primer in the quick zap tray, put all of those up there. And then I would be able to dynamic mirror. If people know what that is, I could dynamic mirror that to what I'm doing later. Or I'll just run the primer in the quick zap tray and then just leave it alone and see what's happening. So, but that primer or running this really quick, it really introduces the body to the idea that they're getting ready to do some energy work, and that we want them at the physical, emotional, and mental level to be ready to be engaged, right? So it's like saying to the body, okay, I'm getting ready to do this thing. I'm getting ready to receive all this energy. Let's just tune everything up and get ready to receive those frequencies.
Absolutely. And I do use the vessel primer all the time just because we are short on time and I just wanted to get in. I use the system overview. And the system overview is also really going to have all the minerals and all the basic areas from the biofield. So it is getting it in there. It is getting some additional stuff in there, but for time reasonings, I am not going to just do, maybe I'll just run actually, hold on a second, guys, where are my minerals? I'm just going to add all the minerals in here and I'll just run them for like 30 seconds. Because I don't want to take away from your.
No, it's fine. I mean, this is really, I mean, I would say to everybody here, and I know there's several people that are seasoned and there's people that are probably new, but you can do a ton with the Genius just with these just with what's here, right? Like that, there's so much information that's here, and just helping somebody with their vitamins every day is kind of the beginning of everything else, right? So it's like you can't go wrong by spending time getting the body ready, because the more you kind of commit to that, the more they're going to be able to receive. And I think that's important. Yeah, you can go ahead
and thank you, Laura Hall, for reminding me that I didn't look at my aura. So it's not exactly a before aura because I just ran those frequencies, but it will be close. Thank you, Laura. Well, let's hope it's a good one.
It's going to be kind of muddy, I bet, because you just ran all that stuff.
Yes, it is
for
muddy.
30 seconds. I'm always like, I look great until I've run anything for 2 minutes. And I'm like, ooh.
So, all right. So we have that. And, you know, now you just have me inspired to just run the, the vessels. It just takes a minute. I would like to draw attention that the first library up there, I'm moving everybody. So, and if you know me, you know that that it is a very stressful process for me. But the fact that hoarding came up is really quite comical for me, that that's showing as the top thing in there. So I just thought I'd point that out.
Oh yeah, Laura Hall is also moving and feels that, I see her say, I feel the pain. Hi, Laura.
So, okay, I'm going to run all these frequencies in here.
Is that your bioterrain?
Yeah, this is the bioterrain vessel priming. So I'm just going to run all of these. I'm going to run it for 1 minute.
Yeah, while you're doing that, Denise, I mean, I would want to say to people that are new that there's a tendency when you're first learning the Genius to want to kind of rush to get to something more. But in every energy modality, there's this kind of ritual of setting people up for success, right? And that might be like in deeply spiritual traditions, it's cleansing the things, setting up the altar. And in energy medicine, like in energetic kinesiology, there's all the pre-checks, right? There's all these things that we do to kind of set the tone. And you actually, like, you could spend a lot of time just setting the tone, right? And then just a minute doing the thing that needs to be done. But it's like the kind of the concept of like building the perfect hole before you put the plant in, right? Like that's what all this stuff is doing. So that push to want to get to something else, I just want to remind people, like, this is really critical stuff that you're doing. And it's an important part of the process, and not to undervalue it versus where they're trying to get to.
Absolutely. And I would like to see a higher rectification on this. So I'm going to rescan it. And I'm just going to run the highs. And I'm going to run it for 30 seconds. Oh, wait, what just happened here? Okay.
Denise, do you have that on 0 minutes?
I do, because I'm just going to run it for 30 seconds and then I can get a rectification if it's on 0. But I know I have 2 of the M's already. I have Molly, I'm gonna Bedinum and magnesium showing up top. So anybody who's been following our bioterrain knows there's a good indication there of what might be going on as well. Okay, and let's see if it rectifies when we go back, and it did not. So, okay, well, I'm happy that we got enough in there. So I am going to go now, and Laura, would you like me to go right to your libraries now?
So if you'll go back to the main page, I always like to see what's going on in the meridians first. So the 5 elements, NeuroCohesion is based on the 5 elements, which is really, meridians are a part of that. There's not the whole picture, but they're a part of that. So I like to see what's going on here. So the governing meridians up there in the red, and that tells me that there might be a little over energy. In this case, we're going to look at it. I want to also say, when we're doing energy work from this perspective, we could get Denise's voice again in 2 minutes and this could look different, right? Like what's going on in our energy field is constantly changing. But over time, we begin to see patterns with our clients. We begin to see the same thing. So from here, this is kind of a snapshot of where we are right now, right? Where we are in this moment. So there's a little bit of over energy in the governing, and then I would say, the heart and the stomach as well are kind of up there. So I'm writing down.
Aren't we right in stomach season?
Not, yeah, so almost. We're, yeah, actually,
stomach and
we're
spleen, right?
right into it. Yeah, so it's like end of summer before fall. We're in what is the small window of earth energy between fire and metal. Earth energy comes between all of the different elements. It's actually between each one, and then also has kind of this small season that's called late summer, early fall, before like full autumn. So yes.
It's stomach and spleen, is that right? It's stomach and spleen?
Stomach, spleen makes earth energy.
So my stomach is high and my spleen is low.
Right. So we could make a note then from what's looking like what's going on in the meridians, that we might have some things going on in earth energy. And we'll talk about that in just a second. So from here, what I'm looking at is I'm just kind of getting a sense of what's going on in her vital energy and her meridians. Now, Denise, I want you to go ahead and go to the NeuroCohesion, and I will talk more about how those things relate as we go through. But first, the first thing with NeuroCohesion is really collecting data. It's really collecting a bunch of information and kind of looking, and then we're going to find patterns. NeuroCohesion is not necessarily, I mean, it is definitely deep restorative and alchemical work, but it is also meant to give you a guide, like a map of kind of finding those bigger patterns. And so, so that NeuroCohesion, so the first thing that in NeuroCohesion, what we learn is there's a balancing energetic structures. And I want to talk about that a little bit because it's key.
Yeah, I guess give me 1 second here. You keep talking. I just want to make sure that
you have them all.
Well, I know that I have, okay, so I have it. I just didn't have, yeah, okay. Sorry,
No, it's okay. It doesn't have NeuroCohesion in front of it. I need to go back and fix that. So the balancing energetic structures are really about setting the tone of the overall structures. It's kind of saying, you're saying, okay, I've got all these chakras and all these meridians, and I've got all of this energy moving in different ways and neural pathways and in the vital body. And I need to harmonize who I am energetically on all those things to themselves, right? And I have found that this is a real key piece, that to energetic kinesiology, it's a foundational component. But it's also pretty foundational to the genius. I really see that it makes a big difference in long-term success for people. And so in the balancing energetic, can you add your, or can you go search your balancing energetic structures so we can just talk about it for a minute? We would go look at the, yeah, so see how that's in blue. And I would say that this is really highly tied to you not getting that high rectification on your bioterrain.
Okay.
And so, and the reason is because you want to get those energetic structures and all of the way that the body is from the brainstem, well, really from the cellular level up to the brain, kind of energetically running together, right? So as you can, like, as we talk about neurocohesion, you're going to see a lot of libraries. This course comes with really in-depth libraries, and it's a really deep class, right? That's why it's a long class. We teach it for 6 months, and there's lots of hands-on because it takes some practice. But in here, what I want you to look at first for me, Denise, is will you just open that balancing the Dantian? The Dantian are the energies, are some of the energy centers in Chinese medicine. So here I'm looking at that upper Dantian, and that's just kind of giving me some information as I'm moving through. You can add that, add
all three?
Add just the blue for now, and then go back. In the way that we teach neurocohesion is that you would go into all of these panels now and add all of your highs and lows.
Would you also add, because we're both as practitioners work differently, but I would also add the title there, the NeuroCohesion.
Yeah, yes, you can always add that, and just to clarify that, Denise, for everybody here, the reason why you add the title too is, if that's the way you work, is because it has its own frequency. The title of the whole thing, kind of, one, it represents everything inside, but also it has its own frequency.
Correct.
A little bit different than what you've written inside the panels. So, so for time's sake, we're not going to necessarily go through all of this and explain it all. But what I would say is that it's always the first step of neurocohesion is looking through these panels and seeing what's going on here, especially because we have everything from the amygdala, which is, if the amygdala has some energy, over energy going on in it, then we're getting a reactive state in the body. And so we'd want to be looking at that. The celestial circuit is from the perspective of Chinese medicine, and also that kind of comes from energetic medicine, or from energetic kinesiology as well. That's really about like getting your energetic body lined up with your physical body. So I do want you to actually open the celestial circuit. And good. So in general, that one, I don't feel like we need to add anything from. So just go back, Denise. And then you could, obviously for time, we won't open all of those. So we'll just go ahead and go on out of there. And
you wouldn't want to do the amygdala and stress response?
You can if you want to, sure.
So I'm adding the reds and the blues. How about, do you add above 600?
In here, I would just go ahead and add your reds and blues.
Okay.
It depends on what you're doing, whether or not you're going to like go deeper than that. But I tend to end up having lots and lots of frequencies in my main hold tray because neurocohesion has so many libraries.
Right.
So
sorry, I just was guided to add cortisol.
Okay. Yeah. Because what, you have a little bit of stress in your life right now?
Exactly.
Yeah. So then let's go back and look now just at the neurocohesion panels so that we can talk a little bit about how those are different than what they have in other ways, right? So, so again, what neurocohesion is doing is it's looking at these bigger patterns of how the elements work together as a whole. So just the quick understanding of the 5 elements is that the whole universe is built in cycles. and built in the way that one energy will help support other energies, and then they will, and then they decay, and then it dies completely and something new is born from that. So kind of the circle of life concept. But also in the 5 elements, there's this relationship with each element to all of the other elements always. And so you're kind of looking at like, there's also ways to look, it's called a controlling pattern. There's ways to look at how one element keeps the tension with another element. And in doing that, it keeps that energy moving balanced around the circle of the 5 elements. And that's the goal. Harmony would be that everything's moving really smoothly in that energy. And so we know going into this panel that there's definitely something already going on in Earth, because on the meridian side, we saw the stomach and the spleen. So I'm just going to kind of in general, we're going to talk a little bit of it out. Earth energy is showing here as well. That's not always the case, but it is showing here, and it's showing at 643. So it's creeping up towards the red end of things, right? It's not necessarily where the biggest imbalance at the moment in the 5 elements are, but we know that there's something in this particular snapshot from her main page that it's here.
Well, when we open it, there may be a lot. It just may not be.
Exactly, because there's a lot going on, right? So and that's what I was about to say. On this page, you can't always just assume you know what's going on, but this is your first snapshot into what's here, what's showing here. Now, it's interesting. I want to talk about the Earth element for just a second.
I was going to say, you can't always judge a book by its cover. So here we can't necessarily gauge what's going on inside by just looking at.
Right. But from a neurocohesion perspective, we can start to see patterns, right? So we see that the metal energy, and so just for you guys to know, 5 elements wise, there's 5 elements. Let me just be redundant there. It kind of, you can start from water or wood, like people start in different places in the wheel, but wood, and then fire, and then earth, and then metal, and then water, right? So, so that's the wheel. And so we're looking here at the metal element being the lowest, right? And we would think about, just like if you're using the Genius, we can think about that as chronic. We can also think about that as under energy or stagnant energy, as we've talked about. In this case, when you're looking at the 5 elements and something is in blue, it is more of a chronic state. We're looking at something that is not being fully held and supported by some other element, right? And we see that the earth element might be a little pushing towards that over energy, and earth nourishes metal. So if earth is too over energy, then it's not giving its energy easily to metal. And we tend to rush to treat the thing that's chronic and long-term, but we actually need to release the energy from things that are over energy first, so that there's energy in the system to distribute to the things that don't have enough, while simultaneously supporting the one that doesn't have enough. So I want to say there are a couple of things that I happen to know about Denise right now. Is that no, nothing that's going to be bad, but we're looking now, then what we've kind of determined in this situation is that we're going to look at the relationship between earth and metal. Just for time's sake, and also because like this is I know this is relative to what's going on for Denise. The earth energy is really about the archetype of our caring, mothering side of us, right? It's the constant gardener, as well as the landscape of the earth, right? It's the soil and the gardener at the same time, right? And so this is where we see things like that divine nature or that nurturing energy, right? Like in Mother Earth energy, think about it that way. And from a neurological perspective, we're looking at the bonding system from the mother. And I happen to know that Denise just dropped a kiddo off for school, right? And so when we get stress in the bonding system from the mother's perspective, and that can be not just with our own children, but how we are in relationship to something as a nurturer, then we can get stress in this particular realm. I also could guess that Denise is an earth energy in general. That's one of her, she might have some of those other ones, but, and I don't know if we've ever fully done the test. Have we, Denise?
I'm not sure. I am a water sign. But I don't think that we've ever fully done the test now.
Yeah, it's okay if we don't know, but what I do know is that Denise is an incredibly kind and giving person. She gives way more than she receives. She wants people to feel loved and nurtured and seen and cared for. And she tends to overgive and not necessarily get back as much as she gives, right? So, and that's very earth, that's a very typical earth energy kind of for the way we move through the world, that deeply caring and nurturing energy. The metal energy is all about letting go. It's all about our ability to release the old and be inspired by the new, right? And Denise is both letting go of a son on some level, right? Like, and so there's that kind of grief from the loss. So the letting go would also come with the emotion of grief, where earth comes with the energy of compassion. And so we'll talk about the scale, but the balance between worry and compassion, and metal is the balance between grief and inspiration. And so we've got some grief, and she's also moving out of her house. She's letting go of a ton of things. It's requiring, I always say moving is like spiritually pulling up everything from your basement and deciding whether or not you want to keep it, and on all levels. And so she's been in that process. So like there's a ton of grief in that. There's a ton of like mourning who she was in the house where she is, and getting ready to be inspired by where she's going and who she's going to become, but also her son leaving, right? She's got this kind of multi-level relationship between earth and metal imbalances. So here, Denise, I'd want to actually kind of look into that earth energy. If you open it, I'm curious. So now we're going to look, the way that I've built these is we're looking at the 5 bodies of consciousness for each element. So that would be the physical body, which is literally how we physically show up. The emotional body, which is the vital body. If you've ever heard of that, that's where energy moves. It's emoting, right? So the vital body is full of where our meridians move the energy. The mental body is where we think and how we perceive. The supramental level is the archetype, the kind of overall archetype of the nurturer in this case. And then we have the, in the supramental, we have that built in also with the spiritual level, because there's a spiritual level to all things, right? So, so in this case, nothing in general jumped to the top necessarily that I'm seeing that is like, oh, this particular thing in earth. But I do see that earth needs to be harmonized, right? Like it's saying, you know, I have some things here and maybe I could use a little extra energy. And so, so go ahead and add those highs and lows of the harmonizing.
From the earth energy?
From the earth energy harmonize, yeah.
Ooh. All these red?
All those red. So that's all stuff that just helps to harmonize earth, right? So it's like, she actually doesn't, it's like her body is saying, I actually love all of these frequencies to help me kind of support what's going on in my earth energy.
And then the blue ones.
Yep, and then the blue ones. And as you can see, there's tons of energy. There's that harmonizing earth energy. It's each one of those panels is good. It's built deeply to have all sorts of different kinds of frequencies to support creating harmony in the earth energy. Now, if we think back to the meridians, we had stomach and spleen, stomach being over energy and spleen was under energy. So there is an imbalance just in the earth between the yin and yang side of earth, which again, in the class, we would describe more about what that means. But so I want you to go back to the other panel, and I want you to just open that mental body, because overall, the mental body is doing pretty well, but I'm curious what's in blue. So, yeah. So serotonin in general, that's kind of one of the easiest things to talk about here, is serotonin is our neurotransmitter that helps regulate our mood and helps us to stay, you know, we call it kind of the happy hormone. But in earth energy, serotonin can get really out of balance because we over worry, we get over thoughtful, right? Lots of chewing on things in the mind, and which will lead to chewing on things in the belly, things sitting too long and turning too long. And so definitely there's some things in here about that we want to harmonize serotonin. So go ahead and add those.
Interesting that oxytocin, which is the bonding hormone,
came
up as, you know, like my son's getting ripped away from me. No, I'm teasing.
Well, that's exactly, mentally, we are looking at the care system there, right? Like right. from a neural perspective and the way that a mother perceives the connection to their infants. And so oxytocin is a huge part. Oxytocin is that release of what makes us feel like we're really close to somebody, we're being hugged, right? Like how much we want to, what we get oxytocin when we hug somebody, right? Like, so, but in combination here with your estrogen and progesterone, and then also some of your dopaminergic pathways, right? So that nucleus accumbens in the ventral tegmental area are really the balance between serotonin and dopamine of feeling good about what's going on, right? And staying motivated and staying connected and staying calm. So
do you want me to add the ones that are below 200?
Oh, I see dopamine's up there. Yes, actually, because dopamine's up there, and so was the nucleus accumbens. And I'm just curious, Denise, have you been thinking about it a lot? Has it been hard for you to kind of not think about it?
About
him moving out? I mean, it feels like,
well, I mean, it's a whole bunch of things, and it's not just him moving out, it's actually with the move, going through the things of the kids that were little, all their little handprints. So, it's triggering all those moments, and then, not being able to take them with you, and then, discarding them, and that's all hard.
So the reason why I asked that question, because in NeuroCohesion, there's lots of questions that we ask because we want the clients to be engaged. We want them to be part of it. But what we heard immediately, as soon as I poked just once, Denise just named the grief. When you can feel, I don't know, well, if you're a feeling person, you can feel the emotion that's right below all of that. I feel it, like I want to cry, how intense that grief. I mean, my 20-year-old, we just dropped her off in her first apartment, so I get it. But also, like, you can feel that just below all of that, she's really going through a deep grieving process. So let's go back and look at metal. Go back one more.
Yep.
There you go. So now open that.
Do you want me to put the title in?
Sure. Yeah. Oh yeah, look at that emotional, it's the emotional level of metal, right? So we've got this, we talked about like kind of what's going on in Earth, and we already named it was the emotional level of metal, but now you could open and add your highs and lows from that particular. And then just take a look at those, Denise. Now, sometimes I show my clients these and sometimes I don't, because as we all know, people can get really hung up on the words around emotions, right? Like, but this is just energy moving. It has no good or bad connotation. It's just some things that might be going on for Denise in her field as it relates to metal, right? Like as it relates to the metal energy. So did anything?
I'm going on a limb and I'm adding the ones below 200 here. Little guided that those should be in there. Hope you don't mind me.
No, go you. Yeah. You do you, right? Like, so there might be, the earth energy is also, or the metal energy is also tied in some circles. And again, this can be different to our solar plexus energy. So there might also be a lot of chakra emotions in here, which have to do with self-worth and our ability to kind of be empowered. So you might also be seeing some of those things in here. So then I just want to take a quick look, Denise, if you hop back out for a second, I just wanted to look to see what else is. So the metal also just wants some harmony, right? So it needs, and again, when you have something that's kind of in that blue sense, we're trying to lift it up while we actually sedate the earth and get that energy moving back really evenly. And so go ahead and add your highs and lows from this one too. And then I just was going to take a peek at what shows up there for you. Now the large intestine, that's interesting because your large intestine didn't show on your meridian panel, but it did show at the top of your bioterrain.
Right.
And the large intestine is our ability to let go, right? Like it's really the energy, it's the metal energy is the lungs and the large intestine. And in this case, the large intestine is our ability to really release what no longer serves us, which is huge for what Denise is going through right now, right? Like she's literally touching everything in her house and deciding whether or not it serves her and if she needs to release it. So there's gonna be a ton of energy in that large intestine while she goes through this process. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? Like, but we wanna just really gently support it with this harmonizing panel as she moves through this transitional time in her life. And then let me see that lower. Let's see what's in the blue in here.
Large intestine.
Yeah, and that's the large intestine 18, which is a specific point on the large intestine. And I think that actually showed in your first on that.
Yeah.
You know what words no more working in mouth.
Sorry, guys, you'll have to intuit.
Right, you're just gonna have to figure it out. Now, again, there's a lot of information in these panels that obviously we can't go through each one and tell you what it is today, but we're trying to kind of give you the overview of like how you use NeuroCohesion to help support what's going on right now. And then also there are ways that we could then kind of go deeper for Denise around these the patterns in her lifetime, right? So right now it may look like this, tomorrow it might look different, but over time we're going to start to see patterns for her. And that's going to actually tell us a lot about what kind of sicknesses she might develop, what kind of physical ailments she might have, what kind of emotional imbalances she tends towards. And we can then begin to build a relationship that helps keep that in harmony for her, right? Like, so a lot of times Earth people have digestive issues, right? There's a reason for that. It's the Earth's relationship to all the other elements as well, but because it's the stomach and is part of it, but also because we tend to churn things in the stomach and not let let them go or move on very easily. They can sit too long and we can sit on them, right? And then they stagnate and become a problem, right? Like, but also the spleen energy, which is really tied to our immune system. And so we would be looking for deeper immune things that might be going on for Denise long-term patternings, right? So.
Right. I just want to interrupt for just 1 minute. I'm going to post a link to for a coupon for anyone who is on this Zoom right now to Laura's NeuroCohesion course, which includes all these libraries. So I'm just going to include that. And for this is a special link because you get $200 off the regular price if you purchase it in full using this link. So
yeah, and from that perspective, just letting people know, you can hold on to that link until the registration for this cohort, which starts in October, closes. Also, just letting people know that it's a 6-month live taught class. So it's more expensive than what you normally see. But that's because it takes, we go through all of this information, we learn it pretty deeply, and it's a live teaching. And so that's people usually need to know that I'm working on eventually getting it to be something more online, but it's going to be a while before I have all that together. So if you're interested in being in this cohort, you can hold on to that link. And of course you can go to neurocohesion.com and learn more. Okay, so Denise, go back to, I want to go back one more and I want to go look. So what I did see right in the middle with your blue was that harmonizing the amygdala and the stress response. This is really important that we look here because what's going on between the brainstem, the limbic system, and the neocortex is really important in how somebody processes information. And so I want you to go ahead and add your highs and lows here. The amygdala is the sentinel of fight or flight. And so if Denise has something going on in her life that fires off a fight or flight response, that actually is 5 primitive emotions that could be attached. And guilt and shame and blame are part of that. Blocked pleasure and reward, or panic, or fear, or anger, freeze. There's all different ways that the amygdala is sending a signal to react. And they actually correlate to different elements. And so this is actually relative because panic can be panic from the metal side is the fear of loss, right? So we get this panic, which is this losing, and there's a lot of that going on for Denise right now, and we really want to harmonize how the brain perceives that loss as well. So yeah, go ahead and add in the highs and lows here too.
I added them. Let me just scroll down so you could see the blues here.
Oh yeah, noradrenaline. So no stress here, right? Like none, not at all. Epinephrine too. So stress in the body. So she's got, she's having the kind of a stress response in both the brain stem. So noradrenaline is comes up from a area of the brain, a really specific kind of brainstem area into the brain, as well as epinephrine, which is kind of the stress in her body response, right? So we see both of those. I've seen anger a couple times. There's some so there's definitely anger would be associated more with wood energy. So there might be something going on with wood that, like, as Denise and I work together, we might look deeper at what might be going on the anger level. There might be angry, or she might be angry about the circumstances. She might have deeper angers that are being triggered by the idea of this loss, right? Like there's often a relationship between metal and wood. Metal controls wood. So if there's not enough metal, wood gets over energy, and then anger pathways can get kind of up and uncontrolled, like they can get a little extra. So yeah, so now we kind of have a good balance in there. You want to go ahead and go to your main hold tray, and let's just see.
Oh, my main hold tray. Sorry, I was going back.
And go ahead and begin analysis. And now we
cortisol. Stop!
Right to the top. Right? This is really
I told you.
Yes. The body is really having a stress response. Now, there's a lot more things that we could talk about energetically, why cortisol is showing, especially as it relates to what we've already talked about. But mostly here, what we want to do is go ahead and run your highs. In my world, because we've got so many frequent, you guys see these libraries have a ton going on. So you get a really big, thick main hold tray. So we generally run the highs in 3-minute intervals. And we see what's going on. So the reason why we run it in 3-minute intervals is because sometimes we have energy that kind of pops to the top and says, I absolutely need to be seen. But they actually are just kind of like this really intense acute energy and just a little bit of support. And they're like, oh, okay, well, I guess I'll let you look a little deeper. Right. And so you can run it for 3 minutes. And if you get a pretty high rectification, to me, that is saying that you're kind of dealing with some superficial stuff that is showing as like, I need this now and I need a lot of it. But then it's like, oh, okay, I just needed a little bit. Right. Like, it's like, you know, I gotta pee. Oh, I went. Right. There's that kind of sense. So I like to see after the first 3 minutes where the rectification is, because that tells me whether or not I need to hang out with what's here in the highs and like go ahead and run it, or if I need to like look a little, if it's like, okay, those felt good and we're going to rescan it and go a little deeper. I often find that if we haven't nailed it right off the bat, the first couple times we'll get a pretty high rectification, and then all of a sudden it'll drop really low. And to me, that tells me like we kind of dealt with some of that superficial stuff, and then we've gotten into that deeper core work.
Nitty-gritty.
Mm-hmm. I'm just going to name, I've seen that quite a bit with coronavirus as well. Like it doesn't really show at the top, and you know, somebody might have it, but it's kind of there, it's kind of showing up. And not that it's diagnostic, but it's kind of like doing this thing. And then you run it again and it's suddenly like all at the top and you can't get it to get above, 11 to 20. It's kind of like, it can kind of hang out. In my personal opinion, coronavirus is a deep shadow work virus. The gift of coronavirus is it brings up some of our deeper shadow stuff. And so that stuff is usually hidden. We got to dig for it a little bit, right? Like, and that's kind of what I'm saying here with the 3 minutes at a time. We're seeing, are we dealing with something that's kind of hanging out on the surface and saying, I'm the problem, but really we have this deeper thing that's actually the problem, right? Like, those are some pretty visuals you got, Denise. I like your visuals.
The bracelet. And we have a bunch of grief is showing up in there, GABA, serotonin, bunch of good stuff.
Yeah, there's good stuff all the way up there. You've got some good supportive stuff up there, some vagus nerve support, which is right on track. And that upper dantian, which is, we really are looking at the relationship between the throat and the solar plexus when we're looking at earth to metal. So there's, that makes sense. Cordyceps are up there for support. Grief is right up there, even though now I do think that you dragged grief in. I saw you drag it, or I was going to ask you to drag it. it was in the green on your panel.
Yep.
And this is the thing about like why you need to listen to your clients, because I heard grief. Denise felt grief. She pulled grief in, even though grief didn't show on this machine. But by the time we put all of these in here, it's right there in the top 20 frequencies, right? Like,
right. And that is really the power within the main hold tray, is because you can run these same ones however they come up, but it's the relationship between them with my own energy that is going to change it. So
yeah, exactly. And so
okay.
we've got a rectification that's 56%, right? Like that's good. In energetic kinesiology, it would come out as clear, right? Like, and so I would say that's kind of borderline. I may run it again, but you could also hit rescan and run it again for 3 minutes.
Why don't we hit rescan and see what shows up?
Okay.
I love rescan.
I do too.
I am safe.
Right there to the top.
That was also in green. I dragged that one in. But then what do we have? Cortisol like, still at the top.
Powerful. Yeah. So that's interesting around around all the things. Feeling balanced. Chestnut bud, that would make sense. It's a little fuzzy on my screen. We've still got that panic all the way up there at the top. The spleen energy of the spinal energy.
Oh yeah, the panic is in there. I need some of that 528 miracles into my life.
Yeah, and the oxytocin is up there.
I am free.
Yep. Well, that's got to do with your wood energy too, as well.
Excessive guilt.
Any of that in your life?
I didn't add that one.
No, it was
that one showed up on its own.
Yeah, that large intestine point. The nucleus accumbens, which is the pleasure and reward center, and it's one of the pleasure and reward centers in the brain. The lungs, supporting the lungs, being inspired. Serotonin's up there. Just meridians in general being in balance.
And look at that, dopamine just dropped off and made it to medium.
Just barely. Yeah,
just barely. All right, so should we run this on what?
Yeah, you can run it for another 3 minutes.
Oops.
Now, if you're working with your clients, you can dig into anything that you like. As you get to here, you can dig into what you know. If you're a NeuroCohesion person, you have all of this information in your coursework that you can go back to and dig deeper and figure out what, like, what does that mean? What is here? But even if you don't know any of that, just running it is helping getting that energy moving in the 5 elements. That's really important. So right. I'm aware of time, Denise, so I just want to like.
I'm okay to go a few minutes over if you are, if everybody else, just put a 1 if you're okay for going a little bit over. Otherwise, we can, happy to wrap it up. I'm seeing a bunch of 1s showing up.
Yeah, I'm seeing too. And so I also want to say, like, I saw Laura Hall hopped on there. She's been an amazing support for me. So if you're having questions too, and you want to post them, if I can't see them, because I don't think I
should be able to see them.
Well, I have a lot of things up on my screen. So, but if there's any, like, I do want to give time if people have questions. Obviously there's deep, like we could go deep. There's a whole class about all of it, but I'm happy to kind of give you to answer questions the best of my ability in the time that we have too. I feel like we got all 1s on that. So sometimes there's deeper
question and it left my mind.
Oh. Hidden issues. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So let me ask a question that maybe some other people in our audience may be thinking. So as you even described in the beginning, you're not necessarily pulling libraries for sleep issues or for blood sugar issues. So when you have clients that are coming to you, NeuroCohesion is your first go-to before you go to the other areas, because
Yeah.
this is helping to release all the underpinnings to those root causes.
Yeah, we're getting kind of, we're looking at the whole picture. And I will say that it's not an either or. This is the framework that I hang the rest of what I work on with people. But like, if we consistently see pancreatic, spleen, or blood sugar issues, for example, then I'm for sure going to use some libraries to help support those things and add those things in, either as a extra export for them. Like I may do this NeuroCohesion work and send them a NeuroCohesion export, but maybe I also might send them some restorative work to help support the spleen and blood sugar. I absolutely pull in tons of other panels. Once I kind of see what pattern we're working with and where we need to go and add in, if somebody's having trouble sleeping or hormone balance, for example, like I'm going to pull in some hormone support as well as do their NeuroCohesion.
That's awesome. I just want to read one of these comments in the chats, and thank you, Janie, for posting it. She said, "This is an amazing class. I highly recommend it. The difference in my brother-in-law that has stage 4 Parkinson's disease has brought pleasure back in his life when there wasn't any." So if that's not, I'm going to cry.
Oh my gosh.
That's not a testament to this course and your work. It's just amazing. Thank you, Janie, so much for posting that.
Yeah, Janie, thank you for sharing. And we did get to see some videos of before with her brother-in-law, and then 3 months later. And I literally dropped to the ground and sobbed when I saw them. It was just, for me, it was so validating, because I knew this was good work, but like also, this is why I do it, is so that there's people in the world really making big changes for their friends and their family and the clients that they see. And so, Janie, thank you. Yeah, I mean, you can see it on the Facebook group. The NeuroCohesion, I think it's on the NeuroCohesion Facebook page, which you can join. There's a free community for that. And I think those videos are up there. So
I just wanted to point that out. I do have a low rectification now. So what would you say to that?
Yeah, I would say that we're getting into the meat of where we would really want to hang out, right? So I would actually now, in my own world, either dynamic mirror that to something, or just, this is where I'm going to run for a little while. And then I might, while it's running, I might talk to my clients more deeply about what's going on there. I tend to work. I also kind of combine my genius with a process that I use that kind of gets some somatotherapy and gets deeper. So I would hang out here and actually kind of talk.
So I'm going to, since we use our Thursdays as a teaching moment, so beyond teaching your NeuroCohesion, why don't we step into the dynamic mirroring? Because we've never really discussed that before here. So I'm going to have you take over it a little bit, because personally, I don't use this function that often, so you can speak better for it, but I'm going to go in here and
so before you go all the way in there, Denise, you need to set the times between your quick zap tray and your main hold tray.
I don't have anything in so what are we going to add to the quick zap?
So if you're going to dynamic mirror, you like the way that dynamic mirroring works is so kind of a quick, this is how I understand it. And by all means, if somebody understands it differently, please let us know. But
I do know whatever you have in the quick zap tray, it's going to run. I don't know the exact on how long, but it's going to run from the quick zap, and then it's going to go to the main hold tray, and then it's going to go back up to the. So do we want to put neurotransmitters in here? Do we?
Yeah. So this is where I would put Dr. Drake's primer.
Okay.
Or your bio.
And she's here, so I'm sure she's loving that. Let's just go.
I have found that if you dynamic mirror anything that's going on for your client to Dr. Drake's primer, you're getting a really incredibly deep and beautiful balance.
It's our primer.
Gotcha. More primer.
Right, Deb? We workers put this one together. This is labor of love.
I love that. I didn't know that, Denise. I didn't know that you guys did it together.
Yes.
I didn't mean to keep cutting you out of all that.
No problem.
Denise
No,
was
it's a huge
instrumental.
library. You need that one, Laura.
Denise was instrumental in helping me have the candy store of all my favorite recipes. And she would go, I've got that. I've got that. I've got that for you. And then she started bringing on masterful things like crystals and some of these cohesion ideas. And I think that you're really touching onto something where everything that you said today sounds like the glue between the bricks that holds us together.
Oh, yes. Sometimes that's the piece we're missing is where do I go? Once I've gotten in here, what am I supposed to be doing? What am I trying to figure out for this client? And it is,
So
it's the energy.
Let's go back to this. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. So what should I put the timer on? 1 minute?
I put it on, so I tend to run it 3-6. So 3 minutes on your quick zap, 6 minutes on your main hold tray.
3 and 6, you said, right?
Yep. Sorry, and I also said that really fast, so sorry.
So then you want me to run the highs on 6?
Yep. And now you're going to go back a screen and go up and go into your dynamic mirroring.
Okay, so now we're going into the back office, everyone, and going into extra modules, dynamic mirroring, and then
I would put in, so you have to name your dynamic mirroring, and sometimes I struggle with that a little bit, but in this case, we are harmonizing earth and metal. And I usually put harmonizing something, harmonizing energetic structures, harmonizing earth and metal.
oh, why didn't it? Oh, sorry, I'm typing on my laptop.
Like, why won't it come up here?
Harmonizing earth and metal.
And now set that, so you can just run that for, so now you want to run that long enough that it goes through at least 2 cycles. So 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 minutes at least. And that way you get at least 2 cycles. And it is my understanding that when you're dynamic mirroring something, you're saying, I want to look at the waveform, the polarity, and the relationship between what I have in my quick zap tray and these frequencies that I've chosen in my main tray, right? You're kind of saying these as they relate to these as they relate to these as they relate to these, right? Like it's the waveform. All things are a waveform, right? So you're creating this big waveform that is the relationship between those 2 things.
So should I hit begin balancing? I mean, we're not going to.
And then that's going to run for 18 minutes, Denise. So like, you don't have to run it now.
Should I pause this and should we look at the aura though?
Yeah, go ahead and pause it. Because I know we also need to wind up. I don't want to have too many people.
Yeah, well, this, is a little look at dynamic mirroring, and we can, dive deeper into this, everybody, on some of our next Thursdays, but just wanted to look at that.
I'm curious to see what this will look like.
I know, me too.
Because your last rectification was kind of there. You're moving some stuff though, huh?
Yeah, I mean, it looks bright. It looks nicer on my iPad than it does on.
It always does.
It's much brighter, but so
we see that healing energy move in, right? Like we're seeing that green healing energy.
Well, yeah, but I mean, this is like the bright green, but then we have this yellow and a little bit of red. Maybe the anger underpinning in there.
Or really also, Denise, we can just kind of quickly see that you had that first rectification at 56, right? So, or 53. So this is that big green band.
Right.
But really behind that, we have this deeper stuff that's really still needs to be worked on, right? And that's where we had just started. So this aura matches exactly what we saw.
Right. Yeah.
So
I can go back to here and go back. Now, do you ever use all when you're running this?
No, I don't, because 1, I usually have 150 or more things in there. and remembering y'all that like it's running through each one of those, right? So, so I tend to run it in 3 minutes until I've gotten to this low rectification. And then what I'm really saying is now I'm working on the thing that I need to be working on. And I believe that in doing that, there's a ripple effect where it is entangled with those other frequencies, whether or not I'm running them. These are the ones that need to be run. And then there's an entanglement component where it's harmonizing all of that as one thing.
Right. I'd be curious to see if you, how you see your results or your rectifications at the end. If you try running all for 1 minute twice, rescanning, and then go to your highs. Because what I found is that the stuff that's going to harmonize or balance quickly will do that when you do the alls, which kind of leaves all the other stuff kind of floating up to the top. You know, it's kind of
I have
different ways to skin a cat.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, there's obviously different ways to get there. And I like that one. I like the idea of running the alls for a couple minutes and then rescanning and hanging out and seeing what's going on there. So that totally makes sense.
So, but anyway, we are at 11 minutes after.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody. I appreciate you all staying. We did run late, but it's always a pleasure working with everyone. And Laura, I love having you here, my dear friend. So any questions, you can email me at Denise at Inside Health Apps. Always happy to help everyone. Everybody put a 1 in here if you've enjoyed today's class and you want to see more NeuroCohesion.
Thanks, y'all.
And
yeah.
So, and I hope you really do check out Laura's website. She has so much great information on there. And what else can I say? Laura, you have anything in closing you want to add?
Well, Denise, I'm just so grateful that you got that I got to be here with everybody and that we got to talk about it. And for sure, you know, reach out to either one of us. If you have questions, the website is neurocohesion.com. You can join us on the Facebook page. We just started a Laura Caldwell Mighty Network. We're working on that. So, but we'll keep you guys all posted. And just again, thank you so much, Denise, for having me here. And this was awesome. And now you need to go run that.
I know I need to go cook now.
You need to, and then go lay down maybe and meditate and really receive what's coming to you.
I will. And I'll send you my aura after I do that.
Awesome. Yeah.
So would you put it on longer than the 18 minutes though? I mean, I can muscle test it. I'm just curious what you would do.
You could muscle test it, but I tend to run it for at least 30. I mean, or I just run it for, if I'm going to dynamic balance, I might as well just run it for 30 minutes.
I always run it for 30 minutes. Sorry, just chiming in.
Yeah, we tend to just put it on for 30.
So, well,
that way I don't have to count how many times I went through. Just saying.
Well, I am going to go do that. And again, thank you, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. We will see you next Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern. And wherever else, whatever time that is in the rest of the world. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks, y'all. Bye.
Bye. Oh, I have to stop recording.